what's going on with Putin, what he's been saying recently?
Putin, on the other hand, he's very transactional, and he's and I've watched a huge amount of his speeches. And the more of his speeches you watch, the more inclined you are to think that he is either incredibly, incredibly good at acting, or he might actually be a very genuine leader. He's Russia first. My people are the most important, period. And I'll do whatever it takes to protect them. However, I don't mind having relations with anybody else. Like, let's work out a way that we can all make money. We just literally, when I said that, we just stepped right into Trump's territory because he's very transactional. All right, I'll do for you. What do you do for me? I see the two of them being able to work together really well, like really well. And I've had a problem hating Russians since Cold War ended. And we figured out that Russians are just a bunch of crazy people just like us. And, what do we know about Russians? Well, they love their mama, they love vodka, and they love suffering. They enjoy suffering more than any other group of people. They're very proud of how well they suffer. And that's great. They're tough people. Okay, why can't we get along with them? So I think that, they've been the boogeyman, the straw man for 70, 80 years now. I think that's over. It's time. It's time to, we've got to find.
What about your opinions on Ukrainians, and what do you think that our relations with them and Zelensky, and also what do you think that they're thinking and their mentality is?
In about the year 2000, somewhere in that neighborhood, I was reading the non-official Guinness Book of World Records, a bunch of, titles that you might not necessarily want. Who's the most obese nation? Who's got this? The most alcohol consumed on planet Earth was Kyiv. And it was an average of 1 liter of vodka per day per person. Wow. Now, remember, there are some old people that can't drink a liter of vodka, and there are a lot of children who just don't drink yet because, they're just not old enough. So that means that the average adult probably takes in a lot more than 1 liter of vodka per day. That tells you a lot. That tells you a lot about the people, because it is a cold, hard place to live, and it's a lot like Russia, although the Ukrainians would probably be pissed if they heard that. When we were talking about how horrible the Ukrainians were for killing ethnic Russians, and this whole thing about Nazis, and these militias that were just going in and killing men, women, children, the whole 9 yards in the Donbas region. And the United Nations was saying, look, this is getting close to where we're going to have to call this a genocide. And as soon as Russia invaded, within a week, we'd forgotten about all of that. Nobody was talking about that at all. Nobody was talking about why Russia invaded. It was now completely and totally without any provocation or reason. What about the 10 years that Putin was trying to get people to pay attention to the fact that, hey, I got Russians right here on my border that are getting killed, and I'm not cool with that? Well, then none of that mattered anymore. How did we forget that fast? How did the American people forget that fucking fast? Over the course of 3 weeks, we went from, oh yeah, those evil Nazi militias, to, oh my God, those poor Ukrainians. They never did anything to anybody, and look what happened. That's just completely insane to me. Obviously, they've been neighbors for, about 4.5 billion years, based on how old the earth is. Those countries are up against each other. The people who have lived there have gone back and forth, and the Ukrainians and the Russians have some history because of World War II, et cetera. But I believe that can be worked out. The ethnic Russians in the Donbas region, they want to live their life, et cetera, et cetera. If we can get to a point where the Ukrainians understand that, maybe the Donbas can go back to them. If they're not willing to acknowledge that, if they're not willing to put some protections in there for the ethnic Russians, the Donbas will have to stay independent. That's it. And that'll be done.